too much effort to get scissors out.
Okay, so we are going to do another box and whisker plot example because it's been a really long time since middle school when most of us did this. So here are some results from the 2012 Summer Olympics. This is not all of the countries, it's just a few that were chosen to look at this problem, okay? So what we want to do first is take all of the numbers for the different numbers of medals for the different countries and write them in order. So if we go through, it looks like the smallest number we have is a 4. And we have 2 of those, so we're going to write it twice. So 4 and 4. And I like to just check those off so I know that I did those. And then I see a 5 over here and a 6. And then what's next? 12 for Iran. And then 18 for Hungary. 20 for the Ukraine. 34 for France. 35 for Australia. And 81 for Russia. So I'm just going to count. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. What is it?
Yeah, 38.
Japan's 38. I did forget Japan. That's why I was getting ready to count. So what I always do when I'm done, because I do that a lot, is I'll go through and count. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 numbers. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Make sure I've got them all written out. If they repeat, you just have to write them more than once. Okay? So the numbers that we need to make a box and whisker plot. First, you need to know the maximum and minimum numbers. So the smallest number is your minimum. The largest number is your maximum. That part is pretty straightforward if you have them in order. Okay? And then the median is the middle number. So when you first start learning this, which I think is in middle school, sometimes what they have you do is take your fingers and point the last numbers and go, oh, they match. And then you go here, 4 and 38, 5 and 35, 6 and 34, 12 and 20. 18 is the number in the middle. That is the median, also known as Q2. That's the beginning of the second quartile. So that's the very beginning, the middle of our graph. Okay? And then what we do, if that's the middle, is you're going to take the bottom half of your data and you're going to do the same thing. So I'm sort of covering up the 18 and everything over here. What's the middle number over here?
It is 5.
It is 5. So this number right here is the beginning of, it's the end of the first quartile. I guess this is the end of the second quartile. And so it's where anyway. And then we do the same thing on this side. We're going to cover up the 18. What's the middle number over here? 35. So that's going to be our third quartile. And so this is going to give us all of our pieces that we need for the box and whisker plot. Now, the interesting thing is I have to go from 4 all the way to 81. So we're going to have to pick a scale. So we're going to go down a little ways and draw a number line that'll go underneath our box and whisker plot. So knowing that I have to go from 4 to 81, how do you want to go? You want to do tens? You want to go by 5s? Yes.
Why aren't they even?
They are.
Like, hold on.
So if you look at 18, there's 5 numbers below 18. There's 5 numbers above 18.
Yeah.
And then this is the middle of the lower half, and this is the middle of the upper half. It is all symmetric.
I drew it to where I confused myself.
Okay, so I'm just going to make an executive decision and say I think we should go by tens. So I'm actually going to start my number line with 0, put in 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60. I squished those. I'm going to spread that out a little bit. Sorry, we want to try to make them evenly spaced. 50, 60, 70, 80. And I have to go a little past 80, so I'm just going to put 90 on there. You want to be a little past on each end. And then if you want to mark like the 5s, you could go back and put in some little tick marks to mark the halfway points, and that'll help us put all of these numbers onto the number line. All right, so when I draw these, I like to do the minimum and maximum first. Just sort of gives me the ends of my whiskers. So 4 would be down here just a little bit smaller than 5. So I'm going to go up a couple lines and put that in. And then 81 would be over here. Now, one thing I should mention that sometimes happens, you see how much 81 is way higher than everybody else? Yeah. Sometimes that is considered an outlier. So what they'll do is they'll kind of put a dot at 81, but they don't necessarily connect it to the rest of the graph. I put that too low. It'll still be in line with this. And so sometimes they'll actually throw that number out. I'll show you that in a minute. We'll just keep it in here, and then I'll show you an alternate. We won't have to redraw everything. I'll just show you. So here's the 81. And then the box goes from Q1 to Q3. So from 5 to 35 is my box. And then you'll just have a little whisker on this side and a big whisker on this side. And the median you mark in the middle, which is 18, which would just be a little bit less than 20. And sometimes they'll actually put a little 18 right there so you know what that number is. The others are easier to find. They might put like an 81 there. So this is what we would call some skewed data. It's skewed to the right, meaning that it has this nice long tail on the right. I'm going to put that on there. So it's skewed to the right because you have like this big, long, stretched out thing on the right the way that it's drawn. Okay? And so this would be your box and whisker plot. So you could say things like 50% of my data was between 4 and 18. And if you want to label these numbers on the box, it's sort of an optional thing people sometimes do. But because this 81 is really far out there, and the next number below it's 38 right here, I'm going to show you an alternate way that people sometimes will do this. Okay? So sometimes they will actually throw 81 completely out. So our data set would instead be 4, 4, 5, 6, 12, 18, 20, 34, 35, 38, and they just sort of leave 81 out. That's my outlier. And they will just work with these other numbers. Now we have an even number of numbers, which makes finding the median a little bit more interesting, but I'll show you. So if you count in from the sides, these, just watch. And so my median is actually halfway between 12 and 18. So to figure that out, you can average 12 and 18 together. 12 plus 18 is 30, divided by 2 is 15. So my median is actually at 15. And it's right there. So that's my median. My minimum is 4, my maximum is 38. And then you still would do your quartiles the same way, except now this is the middle. And I have 5 numbers on this side. So my Q1 is still 5. But it changes my Q3 a little bit because the middle number over here would now be 34. And when you do your box and whisker plot, I'll just draw this. You guys can just watch me and giving you some tips here. 0, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, and we'll draw in these little pieces here. So most of your box and whisker plot is going to look the same. You'll still have the 4 at this end. 5 was still this end of so I have a little tiny whisker right there. Oh, it's so cute. My median is now 15, so that's changed a little bit. It's going to move it over just a little bit. And then the third quartile, I marked this Q2. I meant to mark that Q3. So my third quartile is now at 34, which is a little bit under 35. And my maximum that I'm actually going to put my whisker at is at 38, which makes this a whole lot more compact. And then since 81 is sort of an outlier, they sort of make a little extra dot over here. Or sometimes they'll even make it an asterisk. I can't say that word. It's like a star thing. Instead of the dot over here that just shows this was a data point, but it really didn't fit the rest of them. That was Russia. Russia got like an insane amount of medals compared to everybody else. But if I really want to compare most of the data and use it to make some predictions about the next Olympics, I would mostly look at this. That's just not normal.
What, so just because they're a little different?